Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. For today's video, I want to take a look at the foreign interference situation again, as there's been new information that's come out and a little bit of contradictory information. Because just 2 days ago, we had the leader of the Green Party, Elizabeth May, come out, say she got her security clearance, she saw the documents, and she feels relieved. There's nothing to really worry about. Yet just yesterday, we had Jagmeet Singh come out saying he saw the documents and there is concern, in particular with the conservatives and the liberals, from what it sounded like he was leaning to. Now, if you did miss these two announcements, here's a bit of a recap.
Jagmeet Singh read the now infamous NSICOP National Security Report on foreign interference in full, the unredacted version, and came to the conclusion there are traitors in Parliament. His assessment comes in stark contrast to Green Party co-leader Elizabeth May's just a few days ago when she said she was relieved after reading the report.
There is no list of MPs who have shown disloyalty to Canada. So I am very glad I read the full report. I am very comfortable sitting with my colleagues. We will disagree on policy and on many issues, but I am vastly relieved.
And here's how Jagmeet Singh framed what he read, the same document, in the same way up against how Ms. May saw it.
I am not relieved after reading this report. I am more concerned today than I was yesterday.
Was there anything in the unredacted report that was connected to you personally?
I was a target. They are indeed traitors to the country.
Now, before we get into Vasi and the panel breaking all this down, that's a pretty bold and concerning statement that Jagmeet just said. And as much as I'm not a fan of his, I am currently leaning a little bit more towards believing him versus Elizabeth May, as with her announcement a few days ago, it was over an hour long. Kind of seemed like she was doing a whole monologue of some sort, whereas Jagmeet today was half the time. A lot of difficult questions were thrown at him. A lot of the reporters unhappy with him, and they grilled him, which we're going to see. But yeah, it's just strange to have two different leaders reading the same document, coming to what seems like wildly different opinions. But as I said, here's Vasi in the panel.
So we've got two leaders with seemingly opposite assessments of the same top secret report, which Canadians can only see a redacted version of. Here to break down everything we know so far and where this thing goes from here, CTV's senior political correspondent, Mike LeCouture, and the Globe and Mail's senior political reporter, Marika Walsh. Hi, guys. Okay, Marika, I'll start with you. I don't know what we expected when Jagmeet Singh was going to come out today, but he very directly did not say the same thing. Like, he was like, I'm not relieved, and Elizabeth May was relieved. What is the nexus, do you think, of the different take?
Is that she essentially said people might have benefited from foreign interference, but they didn't do so knowingly, although they probably should have known, was sort of her main takeaway. She said there might be compromised MPs in the House of Commons, but she was relieved because she didn't think there was anybody who was disloyal to Canada.
Now, I don't know about you, but to me, that definitely sounds like individuals were being disloyal to Canada, because I don't see how you could be benefiting from foreign interference, yet playing the I wasn't aware card or I didn't know card. I'm sure you could see some sort of swing in your direction or the benefits coming in, and then you could factor, well, where's this coming from? Especially when our reports say that a lot of this foreign interference started in 2018, which is in the NSICOP report. So I just don't believe that people didn't know, especially sitting MPs, whether they were doing right or wrong. But let's continue.
Clearly, from everything you played off the top of your show, Jagmeet Singh does not have that perspective. And I think very interestingly, my takeaways from him were he thought that the Prime Minister had almost accepted a certain level of foreign interference. I thought that was
He said that very
a
directly.
very damning statement from the NDP leader. And he said essentially that the inaction from the Prime Minister is a problem and the inaction from the Conservative leader is a problem.
Yeah, and we'll get into that in a second because there's lines of accountability on both sides there, Mike. But what you were there, I think, for the press conference. What stood out to you about what he was saying about what he read? Because it's kind of tricky. Like, in some instances, he was referring to like what he couldn't say because it was only what I can base my comments on what's public, but then he was also like making reflections which clearly were based on things he was able to read that we were not.
Yeah, and shocking that it was the same report that Elizabeth May apparently read. And I actually asked him, did you read the same report? Because these are two starkly different conclusions here. And how do you come to these types of conclusions? The fact that he was a target of foreign interference, I think, was one of those revelations. The other thing I thought that was interesting is a number of reporters start to hammer him and say, okay, so you had said if any NDP MPs were implicated in any of this, you would kick them out of caucus. Are you kicking anybody out of caucus? He said no. And when that follow-up was, well, should other leaders do so? He basically said that other leaders should either be reading this report or reflecting on who is in their caucus right now. So clearly a bit of an indication there of there may still be people in Parliament, people who are parliamentarians that are sitting that may be compromised at this point. And really calling out Pierre Poilievre constantly. We know that Poilievre said that he will not be reading this because he doesn't want to be muzzled in the House of Commons, but saying that, look, he should be reading this because it does involve his party. And again, saying that, as Marika had said, both Poilievre and Trudeau have sort of willfully being ignorant about this and are turning a blind eye to it.
Now, I definitely think that this is going to be an ongoing talking point as to why Pierre still hasn't got his top secret clearance in order to read the unredacted report. However, I also feel like Michael Chong did a very good job laying it out the last few times that he's been on air, that if Pierre did get that clearance, he would be essentially sworn to secrecy and couldn't say anything. Now, I don't think that's a great idea if we have all the party leaders all swearing under the secrecy, finding out, whatever it is that they are finding out, but now they can't say anything. And it's not just me who thinks that. Even Tom Mulcair, the former NDP leader, today said that he agrees with what Pierre is doing and the decision that he's made.
Tom Mulcair, CTV's political commentator, and Tom is the former leader of the NDP. Good morning, Tom. Nice to see you.
Good to be with you, Marcia.
So Poilievre saying he's not going to read that report. A bit confounding to some. What do you make of it?
I would never have accepted to read it either. Never. I don't want to be hamstrung as the leader of a party. I don't want to be told that now that I've seen this, I can't say that. I agree completely with the call by Pierre Poilievre.
Okay, I just want to wrap up then with a final point then for those who are having trouble understanding why not reading the report is actually a good thing, because information is power. How do you comment on something if you haven't done the homework? So you agree with Poilievre not to read it. I still don't really get that. Does that mean you just sort of wash your hands of it, leave it
No,
up
not
to
at
the
all.
inquiry?
You can have a member of your party who has access to that information. And one of the things that you have to do when you do look at that information is to say that you're not going to reveal any of it. That's why it was a bit troubling. Elizabeth May said she had the opinion of a lawyer. I'd love to see that opinion, frankly, but be that as it may, I think that Poilievre was wise not to tie his own hands. He is the leader of the official opposition. I have once, occupied that role for several years as leader of the opposition. I would never want to be hamstrung because I looked at a government document. I would never want to be told that I can't ask all the questions I want of the government. And I think that on this, Poilievre is completely right. The others don't have as important a role. Neither the leader of the NDP, my former party, and I respect its current leader a great deal, Jagmeet Singh, nor the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet, also doing his job. I don't think that either of them is in the same position as the leader of the official opposition, who has a very formal role in our parliament. And I think the last thing that you would want to do in that role, forget about the individuals, anybody in that role who would decide to intentionally limit the purview of their interventions and their ability to talk about an issue by looking at a document and then saying they wouldn't talk about it, I think that would be a mistake. You can write down the date. It's the 13th of June,
Thursday,
2024.
June 13th.
And I agree with Pierre Poilievre on something.
And to be honest, I think most people would agree with Tom that Pierre is doing the right thing. Tom mentioned that Elizabeth May, she's the leader of the Green Party. It's got 2 to 3 members in it. The Bloc, they're never going to be the opposition. NDP, in coalition with the Liberals. So regardless if it was Pierre as the leader of the opposition, Andrew Scheer, Melissa Lantsman, if the leader of the opposition hamstrung themselves, as Tom said, then they wouldn't be able to question the government at all. And this is something that was brought up when Jagmeet did his announcement today. The media went after him in regards to propping up the Liberals. And we're going to see that when we get back to Vasi in the panel.
You mentioned, Marika, that Jagmeet Singh essentially made the statement that the prime minister appears to be okay with a level of foreign interference. That resulted in a number of reporters asking repeated questions at Jagmeet Singh about why he continues to essentially prop the government up. Have a listen to that exchange.
Why are you continuing to prop up the government who you say isn't taking democracy seriously? Why do you continue to prop them up?
So the question is, what are we going to do about it?
No,
the question
is,
to
why
me,
do you continue to prop up the government when you say our democracy is at stake and this government is not taking our democracy seriously? Why continue to back them up?
we're not at all doing that. What we're saying is we're going to demand answers. We're going to continue to push for solutions.
It is hard to see how, Marika, Mr. Singh continues to navigate that question when he is essentially saying, like, the Prime Minister has a role at putting democracy at risk.
Yeah, and kudos to, I think that was Mickey Durgic with the Canadian Press, putting those questions to him and not taking the suggestion that she should be asking a different question. I think that it is a tricky position for the NDP to be in, and they will continue to be in that position until they bail on the supply and confidence deal. So far, they're making the political calculation that that is not what they're going to do. I mean, Mr. Singh's argument is essentially, we can't have an election right now in this current climate. And he's saying, interestingly, he has kind of the same conclusion as Liz May, that the leaders need to get together, chart a path forward. That's sort of the only part where they really agree on, that this does need to become a political thing that they take head on. And that's also what sort of academics in the intelligence world are saying, that you can't just keep pushing this to committees and inquiries. You ultimately have to make a political decision about what you will do.
What an absolute clown this guy is, trying to change up the question right then and there. But kudos to this reporter going, no. That's not the question. This is the question, and this is what we're asking you to answer. But to Marika's question there, or her statement, we already know what Jagmeet's going to do. He's going to do absolutely nothing, because this guy is just thinking about the pension at the end of the rainbow, which is the election next year. And they are most likely going to be using now this MP foreign interference as a reason why they can't have early elections, because they don't know who's clear, who's not clear, even though they've just finished reading the unredacted report. But as always, this is just my opinion. I'd love to hear from you guys, so please let me know in the comment section below what you think about this whole situation. And as always, I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks so much.